Grand Rise, and this is the second part of the story. So one thing that I forgot to capture is that whole situation that I just gave you was literally a corporate DEI shield for her. She was able to say those things under the shield of LGBT and DEI. That was literally her shield. Because she was white, and if she was not LGBT, she was definitely an ally. She was a damn prayer warrior for him. Because she was sitting up there, you know, the other day, she's talking about pride and all this kind of stuff. Interesting that they put that shit right around Juneteenth. But anyway, so now she was able to say those words, which you're not even supposed to say things like that in the corporate arena, especially aloud. You're not supposed to even say that aloud. Making broad generalizations, because I could have called that toxic femininity, right? So going on to the story of what happened, there's two different incidents that happened in regards to that train. The initial conversation was the train. So I'm on Cedar Riverside. This was probably around 07, 05 maybe. I believe that the train going around Cedar Riverside was fairly new, because I remember taking it up to Lake Street. So I think they installed the train around between 2003 or 2002 to 2005 maybe. I remember catching that train. I don't think they installed it in 99, 2001, 2000. I don't think they had the train when I was just getting out of high school. I think the train was new, but I'll check. I'll verify that. But I think it was anywhere between 2003 to 2006 or something like that. Because remember, I was staying in the Cedar Riverside projects at that time. I was in the D building, D1901. Those stories I told y'all about when I got the MPC from Big Earn. And I got to do a Big Earn story too. But the MPC, I got my MPC and I got the dupe machine all within the same amount of years. So I'm sitting by the light rail station. Now, mind you, the light rail station brings you all the way to the Mall of America. It stops at Lindbergh Terminal 1, Humphrey, I believe. Or Terminal 2, I think it's Terminal 1. They actually, when they did it, I'm not going to lie, when they were putting all this stuff together, it seemed to me that when they were putting this tunnel together, I mean, it really kind of changed the transportation scape on taking, because I'm trying to remember how we got to the airport before. Usually people would just drive and drop you off. Now you can get to the airport on the train. Now this has been going on for about, I don't know, 20 years, 15, 20 years maybe. And it'll bring you to the Mall of America. We used to take what they call the 180 bus on the Mall of America. And that's why sometimes I had these little flashbacks. To get on the 180, I think you could get it downtown. I believe you could get the 180 downtown. I think you could. You go to Nicollet Mall, where I'm trying to think where you got the 180. I think I can't remember where the 180 went, but I wish I had some footage of people on that 180 or whatever. So I might do a story on that too. So sitting at the Cedar Riverside station, I think I was coming off the train, or I was coming away from my building, getting ready to wait on the train or something. I was headed somewhere. I think I was headed somewhere. I could have been coming back from somewhere too. Because a lot of times I will go up to the light rail station and then walk down the Cub if I want to go to Cub. Or anywhere on Lake Street I want to go, I hop on the light rail. There was no point to take the number 7 and all that. Sometimes I might take the bus, but I really generally wasn't doing that anymore. I was just walking to the train, get off on Lake Street. If I got to get off on if I need to go to Cedar, I'll take the train, get off on Lake, and then walk to the 21 and take the 21 up. And then now I could take the 19 up this way, or if I'm going over north, I could take the 19 back that way. But if I'm going downtown, I'll just hop on the train and just get off downtown. I see a woman with her daughter getting off the train. They were not inconspicuous at all in what they were carrying. They had 2 Apple Mac laptops. Now, around this time, I mean, Apple Macs were never cheap, but she was kind of holding. I mean, it really looked like an open target. Like if you would have seen that, and you would have been somebody nefarious, you looking at that like a lick. And she was walking with her child. And I think the child was old enough to carry. They both had Apple Mac laptops to my recollection. And they're getting off at Cedar Riverside. Now, before I left Cedar Riverside, they were starting to put them cameras up. And the bottom line is a bunch of the Somalis over there was robbing folks and gangbanging and doing all this kind of stuff. They were the crime element over there. It wasn't a bunch of black folks over there like that. It was mainly Somali folk. That's the truth. So they was just raising hell over there. So it was getting worse. It was already kind of janky, but it was getting worse. Somebody had got shot not too long ago or something like that around those times before I left. Maybe it was 05, 06, and they started putting more cameras up. And I knew when they was putting them cameras up, I knew it was starting to get worse because of the crime element. Now I want you to think about this. They have all these businesses around each other. They have businesses. They practice group economics. Yet these dudes are out here robbing and committing crime. Now, usually the crime element, because in their culture, they're not supposed to drink and all that. So a lot of them dudes that be kind of bumming cigarettes, you'll get off the train. Hey man, you got a cigarette? They always ask you for cigarettes, or you'll have the underworld element of the Somali crime world in terms of, because in their belief, you ain't supposed to be drinking and doing all that kind of stuff. So those be typically the outcasts that are committing these crimes. Those be the ones where don't nobody really, they're kind of the outcasts. You see what I'm saying? So now they're at the train station too. It's like a group of them. And anytime you see a group of grown men sitting around, especially during working hours, and they're all grouped up sitting around, 9 times out of 10 is something that's going to be non-constructive. 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to be non-constructive. So they're scoping this lady get off the train. I post up and I watch them. It's about three of them. It could have been 4. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm outnumbered. But I figure I could fight a little bit. So, and I know they can't fight at all. They might try to pull out the belt buckles or something like that, but they not going to be able to beat me up. It might take about 5 of them or something. They ain't going to be able to whoop me. I know that. They too light in the ass and too skinny or whatever. They might have to pull out. If they pull out a weapon, okay, then I'm gonna have a problem. But I know these 3 guys is not gonna be able to whoop my ass. I know that for a fact. So as they're walking, the dudes, they kind of tapping their shoulder like, hey, look at that, like, look at that. And while I'm kind of standing off to the side, they don't really pay no mind to me. And the ladies are kind of walking, or the woman and her child's kind of walking, and they start kind of closing in, getting ready to follow them. That's when I get up. Hey, what's up? What's happening? Oh, man, what's going on, man? You got a cigarette? I said, I ain't got no cigarette. I said, I see y'all looking at them Apple Macs. That ain't happening. Well, what you talking about, man? And this, that, I said, man, that ain't happening, bro. Whatever y'all got going on, you know what I'm saying? The lady kind of looks back. And I tell the lady, get up out, move away from here. Because she kind of looks back. And I tell her, keep going with your child. I got you. So because she didn't know. And I said, hey, well, I see what y'all trying to do. I said, that ain't happening. That ain't happening at all. So now it might have been a little bit of a different story if it would have been more. Because see, now they would have maybe tried to shoot me or do whatever like that. You still have some of that element around there or whatever. But the thing is most of the time, I'm going to be real. They don't really be playing with black folks, black Americans like that. Maybe if they got you surrounded or whatever, but around them times, even 3 or 4 of them, they like, okay, we gonna have to fight. You see what I'm saying? I'm just being honest, y'all. They in their minds, they like, because around that time, they were into the robbery and jumping folks and stuff like that. Now they running around like John Wick. But they know. They know that if I was bold enough to confront them, now if it would have been a whole big group of them, then yeah, it wouldn't have been, it would have been, you're not going to be able to fight 10, 15 people unless you just really, like, if you're a boxer. If you're a boxer, yeah, you could sock up a few of them. The other one's somebody's going to think like, man, okay, this dude can fight, unless they completely surround you. But if you're like a real boxer and you really, really, really got hands, you could whoop 5, 6 of them, and the other 6, they're going to try to run up. You could whoop a couple of them as long as you got stamina. But 10 to 15 people, that's a lot of people. They're going to all surround you and stuff like that. So there's not a lot you could do. But if it's just back to wall, it's 5 here, boom, 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 boom. You get rid of 5, and then the next 5 come in, you get rid of them. If you're a real boxer, they're not going to be able to do nothing with you. Unless they have like all kinds of weapons and stuff. They're not. They're not going to be able to do nothing. But it was about 3 or 4 of them. And they knew. They said, we ain't going to be able to beat him up. It would have had to been 2 of them that could really fight. And then the others, they just trying to pummel me or whatever. But I knew. I said, if I get down with these 3, I said, they're too light. They're kind of like, they were kind of lanky and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Typical frame. I'm not talking bad about them. I just knew. I said, because they only targeted the people that could see, in their mind, they're like, okay, if we beat this nigga up, he may come back. I stayed in the neighborhood. So I'm just going to be honest. When I lived there, didn't none of them play with me. Not once. It might have been a few of them that got a little smart because I didn't want to give them a cigarette. I told one of them, I said, man, you shouldn't be asking for cigarettes. And one of them was like, nah, I try to get smart. And I basically told them, like, look, man, so that was going on. That's the first story. Okay, now the second story, I was with somebody. And it was some women that was coming off the train, or, and I think they might have had bags, or they might have had, I wasn't by myself. I was with my homie that I used to hang with around that time. And he was a pretty big dude. So this time it was a larger group of dudes. And they were scoping out, they was acting like they was going to scope out some women. And I noticed, so we kind of like, for a while, we kind of skipped trains for a minute because we kind of wanted to see what was going on. And I noticed that as the trains left, these dudes kept staying around. This is a different story. I mean, it's the same scenario, but it's a different story. So I'm walking I have my backpack. I must have made an order or whatever. I have my duplication machine. So we at my house. So we getting ready to hop on the train and go to Lake Street. And it's the same scenario where these guys, I'll put this down, where these guys were trying to scope somebody out and try to rob them. Not the same exact guys. It could have been one of them, but it was a group, because that's what those dudes were doing in that neighborhood. They were robbing people for phones or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't, around that time it wasn't the smartphones, but whatever they could get out of folks, purses, snacks and you know, you remember when Al Pacino said, told John Leguizamo in Carlito's Way, you ain't like me. You know, you chain snatching, mighty go motherfucker, go snatch a purse. They was on that type of time. Purse snatching, chain snatching, jive ass. You know, that's what they were doing. And so we see some women get off the train. They up there lurking. They see us kind of looking, and they acting like they gonna follow the women. We're like, nah. You know, and like I say, it might have been 5, 6, 7 of them or whatever. And so, you know, they're really, really scoping. So they're like, hey, man, why don't y'all mind y'all business or whatever? I said, we'll beat y'all ass on this damn train. You know, at the Cedar Riverside thing. Because, see, before, I was just by myself. So, you know, 1-on-7, that ain't really going to work. You know what I'm saying? I'm a smaller guy or whatever. But I knew that those 3 from that first time, they ain't going to be able to get with me. Because I'm not like a superior fighter, but I know I could fight better than them. You see what I'm saying? I know once I start fighting them, they're not going to want to fight no more. I know that. And I'm not going to quit. So, but now I have somebody else here, so we definitely can't. We could just wash y'all on this train station right here. We could just wash y'all on this train station. Let me get the two other ones. You get the big ones. Or matter of fact, look, I said, let me get the big ones. I like putting the hurt on big niggas. I said, let me get the two big ones. You get the other 3. We're telling them we will stomp y'all to dust here on this train. Yeah, we'll jump y'all and we'll do that. I said, we will beat the shit out of y'all here on this train station, man. We will stomp you to death on this damn train station. And that's exactly what we was gonna do. We was gonna stomp their ass to dust. Cause all we would have did is, we know the other 2 gonna start running. We was gonna put an ass whooping on them. If they would have said one more word, we was gonna put an ass whooping on them like we couldn't believe. Cause we were already kind of upset. Every time we come to the train station, they lurking around asking for cigarettes. We telling them we ain't got no cigarettes. And they keep trying to rob people. You see what I'm saying? So keep in mind, remember I told y'all that story. Now this happened well before the train. This was like kind of around my high school years. Cedar Riverside, now it's 98% Somalian. They getting ready to sell Palmer's Bar. They about to get ready to do all of that, whatever the case may be. But, you know, the neighborhood has, you know, they got their own police now, you know, got Somali police or whatever. So, you know, the fentanyl has kind of went down, you know, so the neighborhood is completely changed. It already, the neighborhood was never an upper class, high class neighborhood. Never was. It's always been those projects there they might have been there before I was born, or they maybe put them up right after I was born, but they probably put them up around 82, 81 or something like that. So they've been there for a long time. You see what I'm saying? I could check on that and see. But yeah, I mean, they would do that hyena stuff. That was a typical thing. They would do the hyena stuff. And so very cowardly, very, very cowardly. They would approach folks on trains, and, you know, they'd be bothering them. If they could rob you, they would. But they sometimes they would be skeptical of Black American men, even if you were by yourself, because they're like, man, you might have a weapon, and they know if they get on you and they don't finish you, then you probably gonna come back. Because it's not like it's a place they're gonna be able to hide. They're gonna be in them projects. they're gonna be at the Curry Center, at the park, or something like that, or at them trains. So if they do, if a bunch of them were to do something to you, you could come back. Another time that I thought was very interesting. This was crazy to us. One of them had guns and they ran from us. There was a bunch of it was a bunch of Crips at Palmer's or something like that. And they were off, you know where the 19 stops, right across the street from the West Bank Grocery. And I think it was a bunch of lokes or something that was at Palmer's drinking or something like that. And they was over there by the stairs and they was talking slick to some of the Crips over there or something like that. They said something. And they told their ass they'll do something to them. And they kind of got a little smart them out. And so I guess they was kind of, and it was only about 5 or 6 of them. It was like 15 of them. And we seen they had a little revolver or something. So they fumbling with the revolver or something like that or whatever, acting like they gon', and I get, man, them Crips told them, they like, man, we'll unalive y'all out in this bitch. They ran up the stairs. My homie was with me. He's like, hey, y'all talking to us? He's like, oh, we talking to them. You know what I'm saying? Because we were kind of around the proximity or whatever. We were right there where the 19 stop was at. You know, so those are the kind of games they used to play, you know, around that area and at the train station and stuff. So what I was trying to get this lady to see, you telling your daughter, don't trust men, this, that, and the third, whatever the case may be, or all men are trash. She has no protection. But you up there screaming DEI. That's really what she's saying in so many words. Under the guise of DEI, I could just say some crazy stuff about men in here, and I'm going to tell my daughter, hey, you can't trust no men. All men are trash. But the person that's probably going to help you at them trains is going to be a man. A woman's not going to stick her neck out if them dudes jumping on you or doing whatever. It's going to be somebody like me. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's what they're able to do. I'm going to load this up.